the compounding thought of my entrepreneurial and life experience is that the best investment you'll ever make in your life is not your business. It's not the stock market. It's not in any company. It is in your own internal joy. And it is not something that takes any significant time or money even. It's just a recalibrating of your focus into the things that make you smile from the inside out.
The right conversation can change everything. This is Mirror Talk, Soulful Conversations.
In this episode, we will learn the essential principles of becoming a successful entrepreneur from the founder and president of Stealth Venture Labs. He has helped brands like Crocs and Home Chef to generate $5 million plus US in revenue. Welcome to the show, Brent. How are you doing?
Hey, Toby. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for tuning in all the way from the US to talk to us about, entrepreneurship. I'm really excited about this and looking forward to everything that I'm going to learn from you from this conversation. Not only because of all what you've achieved, being on Forbes, for example, and also becoming a knight in Italy by being honored as a knight in the Italian family and every other wonderful things that you've done directly from your mission. While preparing for this, I found out that your mission is to guide businesses to be significant in financial returns and social impact at the same time. So I'd just love to know what inspired you to embark on this kind of mission?
Oh, that goes back a few years. My mission is to use for-profit business to create social impact in the world and to help people find and rediscover joy in their lives in a meaningful way. And it stems back to my childhood. I lost my mother to cancer when I was 7 years old. And from a young age, your brain is developing, right, at that age. And from a young age, you realize that life is a gift. You don't understand that terminology at that age, but you realize things are precious and can be taken away. And so from an early age, I looked at the world very differently. And I always looked at the world saying, in essence, you're not promised the destination. And so we need to optimize for the journey. And I was always I wasn't the lemonade stand entrepreneur. That wasn't me. I think sometimes there's a common misnomer that you need to be this lemonade stand, brownie sale, entrepreneur, mowing lawns in order to be a successful entrepreneur later in life. I think entrepreneurs are built, not just born. Some are. And for me, I looked at the world with a different lens, and it started by having my mom pass away when I was a young boy. And so as I aged and got older and looked at the world, I looked at it differently and said, well, why does business have to be like this when we can actually be like this? And it doesn't have to be hurt the world and hurt society and oppress people and make millions of dollars and all that. And then one day, all of a sudden become a philanthropist, which is kind of the typical model over, kind of the Industrial Revolution, and especially in the United States, how people make their fortune and then give back at a later date. I was always really focused on how do we optimize the ride? And when you start to take that mentality and put it into an entrepreneurial journey, you start to see that the social entrepreneurship journey really matches with that. And to define social entrepreneurship, for me, it's broad. It's not about the type of entity, meaning you don't need to be a nonprofit corporation or a non-for-profit or corporation. It's about the mentality. The entities are just the vehicles of how you decide to do your thing. It's the mentality of the founder and the vision of what do you want to do that makes an impact. And so I had the opportunity from a young age I was 21, 22 when I started my first business. I'm 37 now at the time of this recording in 2020. And so I have been an entrepreneur for 15, 16 years. And I have swung the pendulum in my own entrepreneurial journey in various different ways of just chasing money for its own sake, making the money, realizing it's a very hollow experience when it's not filled with purpose, losing that money in the global financial crisis, and then the opportunity to really rebuild and say, how do I embed what I call embedding cause into your COGS, cost of goods sold? How do you embed social good and impact into the DNA of your business? And over 10, 15 years ago or so, I just went in this journey and I said, I'm going to use business as a vehicle to create impact. And I've done it in every way, from providing meals to those in need through partnerships with Feeding America, all the way through to how we treat our employees and provide healthcare to them and mental health days and all of that and everything in between. Today, we have our own nonprofit that teaches entrepreneurship to low-income children, primarily in disadvantaged low-income neighborhoods in the United States. And the mission that I have is fueled by a passion to leave the world in a better place than where I found it.
Yeah.
And I believe it's our job as entrepreneurs, job creators, trend setters, industry pusher forwarders, disruptors, to use business as a vehicle to leave that positive impact and wake. And now it's not a perfect journey, right? It doesn't always happen exactly how you want it to and in the way you want it to, but it is one of those up-down scenarios, when you pull back and you look at it, you say, wow, we've been able to make an impact in this way. And that feels good. And so for me, it's not enough just to make money. Making money as a hollow experience. It's good. Being broke sucks. I've been there too, for many, many, many years. And it is better to have money, but there is a bell curve. Money can actually bring less freedom and more stress and more actual chains around you, similarly to when you don't have money. So when people start to realize that money is just a vehicle, but the vehicle needs to be filled with purpose, and the purpose is the passengers, everything can shift in a big way. And so it takes intentional design. It takes a very significant commitment to not stripping it out of your business model when things get tough. That's why you embed it into the DNA of who you are. And then it just is about re-anchoring every year or so or half a year to how do I continue to further my mission? Is it working? Do we need to make adjustments? And so on. So, my mission as an entrepreneur here transcends any business that I've ever done and ever will do. It is an underlying theme. It has to make an impact in the world in a positive way. And it just stems from realizing, coming full circle that every day is a gift. We're not promised the destination. The destination is the journey.
Sometimes you do not need another podcast episode. You need the right reflection for where you are in this moment. Introducing Ask Mirror Talk, a new space where you can ask what is on your heart and receive thoughtful reflections drawn from real conversations from the Mirror Talk Soulful Conversations podcast. Whether you are navigating growth, searching for clarity, feeling stuck, or simply reflecting on life, Ask Mirror Talk connects your question to meaningful podcast moments that may speak directly to you. No generic advice, no data collected, completely anonymous. Just honest questions and real conversations that help you see more clearly. Ask what is on your heart. Try it now. mirrortalkpodcast.com/ask-mirror-talk.
I love that the destination is the journey and every day is a gift. And I love the fact that, you made this point that, just making money is quite shallow or it could be empty sometimes. So it's very important for us to, have that impact on the world. What footprint are we going to leave on this planet, when we are gone? And what impacts our business having in this generation? Are we just, exploiting people of their money or making all the gains in the world? Or are we giving back to the community also? And that's why I love to speak with you because, very classic way of thinking about business. I want to start a business just to make money, to be rich, to make income basically. Now that I'm trying to, change my mindset about this, can you enlighten us on how businesses could become significant in financial returns? That means profitable and at the same time also have social impact at the same time.
I want to go back to, I think, a core tenet here that as I've over my career have talked with people who are just starting, who maybe came from nothing or came from scarcity, who say, I don't have anything. How can I give when I have nothing? And what we get into is a discussion about the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. And the scarcity mindset says there's not enough. Therefore, whatever is created, I need to hoard because there won't be enough. And what that does is that mindset propagates on itself and it creates, no matter how much you have, it's never enough. If you have $1 million, $10 million, $100 million, $1 billion, there are billionaires who feel like they're going to lose it all and they're miserable because it came from a scarcity mindset. So the true freedom of wealth creation is creating wealth through freedom of mind. And when you can understand that the abundance mindset says there is enough, even when there isn't enough, and it is out there, it is just mine to go take, we start to create more freedom and positivity. And when you kind of really bring in the law of attraction here, going all the way back to Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, how do we attract that to us where we are creators, where we can maintain abundance through giving. And when we start to understand that abundance is maintained through giving with no expectation of receiving, the paradigm shifts. And so when I talk to people who are really in scarcity for the right reasons, either they came from, nothing, or they've lost it all, or there's fear, all of that makes logical sense. But in order to live an abundant life of freedom and to earn and create, we actually have to shift that mindset. And we have to get out of the scarcity and into the abundance to say, okay, the way that I create abundance is actually through giving. And giving doesn't have to be 10 cents out of $1, or, it could be giving of your time. It could be giving of your product. It could be giving of your mind share. It could just be giving in how you are structuring, how you treat your team. And so the embedding of giving into your mindset from day one, I guarantee you that if you've ever had an experience in your life where you gave wholeheartedly something to somebody somewhere, could have been $1 to somebody on the street. It could have been food to somebody in need. It could have just been your time and advice to a family member, or your shoulder to cry on. Somewhere, somehow, we've all had an experience of giving. Doesn't have to be financial.
Yeah.
The feeling that we receive when we give is so soul-filling, it is not even close to the same feeling of earning $1, 10, or 100 million. But people think that if I just earn money and I just make money, then I'll give. But the truth is that giving starts in the seed. It's the acorn before the oak tree. And so what we have to really do is understand that giving actually is giving of ourselves, our time, our resources, our money, it could be, right? But giving of ourselves in some way is actually the road to abundance and freedom and true wealth creation. And part of that of wealth creation is financial, of course. But if you don't give, a penny out of $1 or 10 cents out of $1, you're not going to give 100,000 out of 1,000,000 or 1,000,000 out of 10. Right? It won't work like that. And so when we talk about embedding social good into the DNA of who we are, people lose track of the fact that there is no destination. There is no destination in life. There's no there, because when you get there, you're always setting new goals. If we can optimize for the journey and the feeling that we can get giving of ourselves, of our time, of bringing value to our community, to the world around us, our employees, in any way, shape, or form, we start to optimize for happiness along the way. And that happiness along the way is really the key to happy life. And so as you're starting your business, and you're embedding it, and as you're getting going on all of this, giving, people think is just financial. It is not. Giving could be a simple utopia, you helping a young entrepreneur starting up themselves and giving them an hour of your time to say, here's what I learned, right? Here's how I started. It could be taking a portion of the proceeds you receive from the show and helping in some way, shape, or form. Small, right? Doesn't have to be big. It could be going and speaking at a local school. It could be, you going to your home country where you grew up and going back to the community in which you were in and helping there. It's in so many different ways, but the true fulfillment of a happy life outside of business is the secret is in giving. Yeah. And so as we put that foundational block and we start to build business and life and stuff off of that, we start to stack these bricks of joy based out of giving of ourselves in ways where it creates fulfillment and helps us during times when things get tough, because shit gets hard, right? Entrepreneurship is hard. And giving is the nourishment for the soul.
I love that. Giving is the nourishment for the soul. I mean, it doesn't have to be money, because sometimes people say, I've not said any money from this business. So it could be just giving off the service for free, or giving off our time for free, and just, helping people around us, or the society around us, basically, in one way or the other. That way we are giving back. And yeah, it's a seed that we're planting basically for ourselves and for the generations to come. Right. I like the fact that you mentioned of obstacles, that every entrepreneur, faces obstacles in life, which is the sad truth, basically. So from your experience so far, I'd just love you to talk about some common obstacles that every entrepreneur faces and how we could overcome them or even avoid them if it's possible.
So my senior year in high school, in the yearbook, you have these senior photos, and under your senior photo, there's a quote that you get to give. And so when I was, I think, 17, 18, the quote that I gave was, obstacles only appear when you take your eyes off your goals. And I don't think even at that age, I understood truly what that meant. And as here I am 20 years later, I look at that and I think about that, and man, that is so true. We all experience hardship and we all experience obstacles. There is no person perfectly paved path or road to quote unquote success. And I think what happens is people get this idea that it needs to be smooth sailing the entire time. But when you start to think about the way that the universe works, the yin and the yang, the positive and negative, the ups and the downs, the night and the days, it's based off of polarity. It is the basic building blocks of life, the electrons, right? Positive and negative. And what we think about in life is like, oh, the negative stuff is so hard and can be all consuming. And it does. We have a negativity bias evolutionarily to keep us alive. But what happens is that we think that obstacles become these brick walls. The reality is that the obstacle is actually the thing that causes us to level up and grow. When you're in it and you're taking body shots and you feel like there's no way out and it's a dark room, sometimes it doesn't give a lot of comfort. But when you pull back and you get some space and time, you realize that hardships and obstacles actually are these seedlings for future joy. Going back to that acorn analogy, without those hardships, I couldn't have experienced that growth of the tree. The acorn is the hardship and it is the seedling of the future joy. Why? Because that hardship allowed me to grow, allowed me to level up and push forward and experience life in a really difficult way, that when you get through it, and all this too shall pass is a really, really important thing for people to remember. But when you're in it and it feels like you're in the storm, you have to survive the storm, right? And so if you're in a snowstorm and you don't have the right gear, you could die of hypothermia and frostbite. But if you have the right gear and you're hunkered down and you can get into the right mindset of these things, the storm will pass. Every major storm has passed, even a major hurricane, right? So as we look at obstacles, if we can shift our frame, shift our mindset to say that the obstacle truly isn't a showstopper, the obstacle actually is a pathway, it is a stair step to the next level of my life, we can approach it in a different way. Now, that doesn't help me, even me, when I'm in it and I get the like gut punch and you're like, oh crap, what are we going to do? How are we going to solve this? It can be all consuming, right? But with a little space and time, you realize that obstacle is like when you go to the gym and you work out, you break down your muscle. What happens? Lactic acid, you become sore, but and that hurts and that's pain, physical, but you know that soreness actually is a thing causing you to get stronger, right? But when it comes to the emotional stuff or the things in life and the obstacles, we don't have the same approach. So it's the emotional lactic acid that breaks us down. The obstacles create that opportunity, that challenge, and challenge creates growth. And if we can understand that challenge creates growth and that those things that we're going through are creating, the chapters in our future book and memoirs or stories to tell our grandkids, we can actually say, okay, well, how might I solve this now? How do I get through this? And as you get through this, and you will, what is the learning lesson? So when it comes to facing obstacles, the biggest shame that anybody can do is face an obstacle and not extract the learnings from it to say, how did I get better? What do I do? How do I adapt? How do I get stronger? How do I not have this moving forward? Right. And even if, and I experienced a lot of death in my family from an early age, even with the most finite of obstacles where you lose somebody in your family that's close to you. And those obstacles still can make you stronger to maximize your life. So when we reframe obstacles into challenges, and this is a challenge, and we understand that it's temporary, and we say, what is the learning lessons that I need to take from this? What am I learning? Or how do I solve this? Right. And then kind of come back and look at the learnings on it. We can actually, again, going back to those building blocks, those bricks, we can actually add that as a brick of learning to allow us when that thing comes again, or when the situation happens again, how do we learn it so we don't make the same mistakes? Or maybe even so that obstacle just becomes a little speed bump or a little pothole. Keep rolling.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I'm going on with that, reframe every obstacle into a challenge and use that, to become better basically in life. See that as an opportunity to learn something, to, become a better being, or to even re-strategize to know what direction you're meant to go in. Yeah.
I mean, it's life is what you focus on. And that's worth repeating. Like what you focus on expands. And if life is what you focus on and what you focus on expands, if you focus on obstacles in terms of the negativity of the problem, it's going to be all consuming. And this was my life. I didn't just come out of the womb this positive. It was like through the hard, taking it on the chin, businesses failing, business partner breakups, divorce, lots of failure that I had to realize the hard way that I was focusing on these negative cycles and the heaviness of it. And it put me into these negativity loops that become these fragments, and these fragments become all consuming. And you it's like in Inception, you may remember that movie. It's like you go down 3 layers and you forget about the reality of the world that you live in. And you're in this like negativity fragment, all consuming, and you can't figure their way out. And so when you can look at these obstacles and say, okay, this is temporary. How do I reframe this? And how do I pull myself out of it? Right? Albert Einstein says, something along the lines of a challenge can't be solved at the same level of consciousness in which it was created. And so if we try to solve the obstacle in this fragment, we're not going to actually solve in the way we need to. We have to break the pattern. We have to get out of that high cortisol. We have to break out of that fragment, get a little bit of perspective, and then be able to come back to it to try to solve it and resolve it.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah. From a journey of being an entrepreneur so far, I just love to tap from that well of wisdom that you also have. How can we lead by example? Like now we've overcome all our obstacles, or we know what to do with the obstacles in our lives, and now we are in the position to lead other people. How can we do this in the right way?
It's a great question. I think that the biggest challenge entrepreneurs face is feeling so isolated and lonely in their journey, in the challenges that they're solving, the obstacles that they're facing, the work that they're doing can feel very, very lonely and isolating. And so I think it's really important that we as entrepreneurs talk about our challenges through depression and cash flow problems and verge of bankruptcy and business failures and worry and stress and legal issues and whatever, because when we share openly and vulnerably, other people can see they're not alone. And when they're not alone and they understand it's not unique what they're going through, or their unique situation also is happening kind of in other areas and with other people, they can start to get some hope that there's a way out. You can break those patterns. So how do we lead by example? I think there's like two ways to think about that. Lead for our teams, right? Our staff, our employees, our clients, and our industries. And then there's lead from example with other entrepreneurs. I think with our teams, we do the best to create the way we lead by example is do our best to create an environment that fosters the creativity without constant cortisol, fosters achievement without chronic stress. And the hustle culture, I think, is one of the most toxic things out there in the entrepreneurial world of just work and grind and do your 80 hours and this, that, and the I think what happens is we think that that's the formula for success. So we grind 80 hours, we burn out, we burn our team out just so we make $1. And going back to our original part of the conversation, you make that $1, then what? Then what? You feel empty. You have the money and you're just on this constant hamster wheel. So what I think, we need more entrepreneurs to do is to really take a hard look at the culture and say, how do we create an environment that achieves, performs, but also takes care of our staff and our team? We spend more time with our team than we do with our families and we do it by ourselves. And so how do we create an environment that allows people to grow and develop in their careers, but also do so in a way that is conducive to create a high quality of life? Constant cortisol always driving creates disease. It's proven, right? So when you're in high stress and fight or flight at all times, it leads to disease. We will never eliminate stress. It's a natural human hormone, but it spikes. Okay. Oh, this is something, and that says we need to pay attention. How do we bring that back down? How do we create new systems? And as a leader, it's our job to try to create the best environment that allows us to achieve and grow and take high spikes and then bring them back down and reduce the refractionary period between the cortisol spike and neutral for our teams. Hard. I've been running my own companies for 15 years. It's really difficult. We're not perfect at it. We do our best. We're constantly evolving, constantly learning, trying things across the board. And then as peers in the entrepreneurial circle, it's sharing our stories so that people feel that there's hope and there's inspiration. They're not alone. Mm. I have been on the verge of bankruptcy. I've had businesses fail wildly, lost my money, investors' money, and had business partner legal issues and breakups, been super depressed myself, failed marriage, all of those things during my entrepreneurial journey. It's not just up and to the right and everything's great, right? And so the more that we can share our true, authentic, raw stories, the more people can understand when they're in it. When they're in it, it's not all inclusive. There is hope, and this too shall pass.
Yeah, that's a word of hope for us. There's hope, and this too shall pass. See every obstacle, like you said earlier, as a challenge to become better, to do better. Yeah, yes. I love that. I love that. And I think you've talked about this already because, when preparing for this conversation, I found out that you have this return of joy principle. And I was like, oh, okay, I would love to know what that means. Like, how can we let joy return back into our, entrepreneurship journey, into us, our lives as a whole. And, when like you said already, loss of family members, for example, breakups, bankruptcy, all of that. And then you are talking about return of joy. How does that happen?
Thank you for that question. So 5-6 years ago, I hit a pinnacle, just really rock bottom in terms of my emotional state. I was running the business. I was going through a business partner breakup. I was going through a divorce. The business was failing rapidly. And I had spent 10 years being an entrepreneur, just like ignoring my body, my mental health, and all of those things, just in the pursuit of like, make the business work, make the business work. And I woke up one morning and looked out my window and just had thought of I lived in a high-rise building in San Francisco and had the thought of jumping, and I had a suicidal thought. And it was so stark to how I normally had lived my life that as I saw in San Francisco, we have a lot of fog. And so I saw this fog rolling in and the sun kind of shining in and out of this fog. And I realized that this dark thought that I had about just saying it would be easier just to like end it all here. There's too much. I felt it all piled all on my shoulders, no way out. I was in that dark fragment. And I realized that no matter the weather, no matter the fog, the density of the clouds, the rain, the storm, the sun is always shining behind it. And I realized what the thoughts that I was having were like this dense fog rolling in, but the sun was just behind it if I could get through that thought. And so I was fortunate enough to realize, and I had just started a meditation practice. And there is a technique in meditation called noting, where basically you kind of note the thought and let it pass. And I kind of put those things together and I was like, wow, this is crazy. I'm having this suicidal thought when, I had a penthouse apartment, a fancy car, all these things, but I was so internally depressed. And I realized that I needed to pattern interrupt, because when you're in that space, your brainwaves start to loop, right? And I needed to pattern interrupt. So I canceled all my meetings that day and I said, fuck it, I'm going to the beach. I said, I need to do something different. And so I went to the beach and I just did this deep day of like thinking and looking out at the ocean, and I watched the sunset and I cried, and I realized that I loved sunsets so much. And there was like, I grew up like going to the sunset. It was just something that brought me joy. And I stopped going, even though I lived a mile from the beach, and I stopped doing it. I stopped going. And I was like, why don't I come here and do this more often? And I started asking these questions, and I said, why am I not doing this? And I was like, well, because I'm too busy. I have these meetings. Who has time? And I'd interrupt. I had all these excuses that kept me from something so simple that brought me joy, so much happiness. And I said, well, what else am I neglecting that brings me joy? And that question changed my life. Because I sat there as the sun set and I was crying and realizing that my life, I was chasing this program, the things that people say make you happy, material things or recognition, or you're on your own business, or you have a certain amount of money or whatever. And I realized I was chasing a program. I was chasing a life that wasn't my own. It wasn't designed by my own. And so many people get to that point and they realize they have all the things, but they don't have the one thing they actually want, which is happiness, which is joy. And so I took out my phone and I made a note, and it was titled List of Joy. And I said, what are the other things that bring me joy? And I started to write them down. And this list of joy, it was like, I don't remember what brings me joy. And that was this like, oh crap moment of like, no wonder I'm so depressed at that time, because I was completely void of the things that brought me joy from the inside out. And so I wrote this list. It took me a minute to kind of like tap into the things. I love Italy. Italy is my passion, speaking the language, going there, the food, cooking, but I hadn't invested in that at all. I hadn't gone in a long time. Sunsets brought me joy. So I wrote about 10 things, and I realized that these 10 things, I wasn't doing any of them. But they were the things that brought me the most joy. And so I had this realization, and I made a commitment to myself. I said, every single day for the rest of my life, I'm going to invest in joy, in one thing from my list of joy every single day, even if it's a small bit, every single day for the rest of my life. And I made a commitment that day, a daily commitment to invest into joy that fundamentally changed the trajectory of my life. It's the reason I'm talking with you today. And the compounding effect of daily investments into joy, intrinsic things that make you smile from the inside out, creates this return on joy, this ROJ, as we call it, this return on joy that is irreplaceable. No amount of money would ever replace that feeling when you are investing in the things that bring you joy from the inside out. Now, the list of joy is an annual thing that I do. Actually, I update it regularly, but I do an annual kind of like a list on, and there's 100 things on it and growing. Wow. Because the amazing thing that happens when you start looking at joy and starting tapping into joy is it goes from these big things to very small little things. Yeah. Fresh breeze blowing on your face, a morning cuddle with your dog, a fresh cup of coffee, fresh falling snow, whatever it is. And you start to realize that joy is all around you. You just have to tune into it. And when you tune into it, you are investing in the intrinsic things that make you happy and bring you joy over time. And as obstacles start to layer in, and as things start to come at you, you start to have the fundamentals of what brings you joy. And it starts to guide your life. And I actually have a whole system that I built off of it. I'm probably about a year away from launching a book and all this kind of around it, centered around how do you take that list of joy and build your life off of it into what I call priority pillars. And then from those priority pillars into affirmations, date that you do morning and night, and a whole system. Right. And it has changed my life. The friends and kind of in my network who have implemented it, it has just fundamentally impacted decisions and their happiness. And, the return on joy is really just centered around, again, there's no destination. It's about optimizing for the journey. It's the small things, also can be the big things, right? But when you start investing into joy, you start making decisions. Like for me, going back to Italy was life-changing. That year, I booked a solo trip back to Rome and met some people that absolutely fundamentally changed my life and created experiences that keep me going back there day to day that ultimately led to this nighting experience that I had last year. So there's no bad investment in joy. Yeah. We just have to tap into it and break away from societal programs of our parents, our companies, our friends, and get back to the way I describe it is when you close your eyes and you think about something, if it makes you smile, I call it making you smile from the inside out. That's typically something that brings you joy. And we got to get back to our child's brain oftentimes and out of the high stress to do that. And it usually takes going to nature or someplace where you can get rid of electronics or that and just kind of like get to neutral, right?
Yeah.
But that list of joy can fundamentally change your life.
Yes. We have to invest in joy and, use that to optimize the journey and not the destination. Yeah. Well, what would you say are the top 3 things on your list of joy? Like, what are the top 3 things you do to enjoy joy?
So Italy is one of the most impactful things of my life. It was from a young age when my mom passed away. She was Italian. I was just really drawn to that culture and that side of the family. And so there's many things now from Italy that make my list of joy, including taking an espresso at the local bar in the morning or talking to an old nonna, a grandmother in Italian. And so that's kind of one major theme. Another is my family, and could be my niece and nephew who are young and just spending time with them, all the way through to my morning routine with my girlfriend and our dog. We have these big windows. We live in the Sierra Nevada mountains and with these big windows and a couch in front of them. And we sit down, we call it Life TV. Life TV. We sit down every morning, we have our coffee and we watch Life TV and we ask each other, what would we like to create today? We just connect for a few minutes. We have a cuddle with the dog and we go about our day. It doesn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes, but that investment kind of fills my joy tank, right? And all the way through to, like I said, fresh falling snow. Sometimes, we're all remote. And so we work from home and I live in the mountains at about 7,000 feet or about, 2,000 meters and it snows. And so when it really dumps and it's snowed and you're snowed in, you could either take, oh crap, I'm snowed in and I can't get out and this, that, and the other, or you could stop, look outside and just watch a snowflake fall and then do another. And when you realize it just makes me smile, it just brings me joy. And it's a small little thing that even when I'm in a busy hustle of a day, I have to even stop myself and say, oh no, it's snowing. Let me just do that for a second. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be these big things. It's not about money. It's not about fancy things. It's about the things internally that bring you happiness. And it can go all the way into like exercise or mountain bike riding or just a warm, cozy fire or reading a book. It is typically something that just when you think about it, you either exhale or you smile.
I love that. I love that so much. I love us to bounce back into entrepreneurship again. And, now we are joyful and happy entrepreneurs. And I love us to talk about your company, Stealth Venture Labs. And can you tell us about it a little bit and also the future of digital marketing?
Ooh, that small question. So Stealth Venture Labs is a digital marketing agency that helps online brands, consumer brands, scale profitably online. So we do customer acquisition, advertising, psychological targeting, creative production, media buying, all of those things. Anything around a consumer brand trying to scale and acquire customers online. Been around for about 10 years. We've helped brands like HelloFresh, you're in Germany, there's HelloFresh, grow and scale, brands that they've acquired, others. We've done a lot in the food and beverage space. And so we are focused very squarely on helping founders, brands, and executive teams who hit growth plateaus scale through those. It's a hard thing. We're like a SWAT team for marketing. And our core mission is to be able to help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams. And the way that we give back as a part of our team is we've taken our digital marketing energies and efforts of starting e-commerce brands. We've turned it into a digital course. And we use that course to train young entrepreneurs in disadvantaged areas all across the United States, how to start their own Shopify store, how to test their ideas, and how to take their ideas into a reality and say that they too can control their own destiny through entrepreneurship. We also changed from the beginning. We've given just insane benefits to our team in terms of health and vision and dental. In the United States, it's a big deal. It's healthcare is expensive here for them and their dependents, to make sure that people are taken care of and don't have to worry about their health or choose between work and their health. And so that's what we do as an organization. And to your point of what's the future of digital marketing, man, it's changing fast. We are in the Moore's law of compounding of change right now with the introduction of artificial intelligence into just about everything that we do. Now, AI has been behind the scenes for a long time, but that Moore's law of compounding is at first slow and then quick. We are in the and then quick moment, right? ChatGPT and all the things built on top of that, as well as the other networks that are popping up, is changing the fundamental way of digital marketing. And it is also a changing landscape because tracking and attribution, we're getting a little technical now, is starting to evolve and go away due to the cookieless world that's coming up, due to iOS 14 that rolled out a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Digital marketing is shifting from how do you brute force get out there and tell as many people to how do you very tactically across many different channels spread your risk out and have the most amount of awareness while still having it back out for you on the back end from a cost perspective. Mm-hmm. So over the last few years, it went from very, very channel specific. You could optimize Facebook ads, Meta ads, Google ads in platform for the exact amount that you wanted. Now to a broad, it has to be more on a blended basis. And we have to take a look at the holistic business and marketing and effect on the business. So people are afraid that AI is going to take their jobs. And I think what the saying that's out there that I find to be true is it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's the person using AI who's going to take your job. And so this is one of those moments in time where the full embracing of artificial intelligence is going to be critical, because what it's doing is it's taking away the boring work, the tedious work, the rote tasks that can be automated. It's a beautiful thing so that we as marketers can think strategically. We can connect the dots. We can be the pilots. Mm-hmm. So the future of digital marketing is really centered on how do you leverage technology so you can move quicker, make better decisions faster across the board, and still have some really strong strategic pilots kind of driving the show on it. It's a rapid changing environment, not for the faint of heart, but tactically it's gone from very channel specific to much more full stack these days, and it'll continue to go more full stack across the board.
Yeah, I'm really excited about what the future of, marketing is going to be, and also the technology as a whole. AI is in all walks of life basically right now. And I mean, I'm so excited to see how that goes and how that works out and turns out for the rest of the world basically. I've really learned a lot from you, Brent. I mean, I've learned so much from you. Been open about, challenges that you've experienced, loss of family members, breakups and all of that, and how that integrates into your life as an entrepreneur also, and how one could, see obstacles as challenges and come out of that and find joy, even in the simplest, smallest of all things. I mean, that's so wonderful. But before I let you go, I just want you to give a word of advice to someone out there who wants to be successful, who wants to maybe start a business, start a journey and become successful in this journey.
I would say a couple things. So first is that it's important people understand that businesses and money come and go. It's the nature of life, right? Even big businesses. But the thing that is permanent is the joy we feel along the way, the memories that we create, and the foundation. And so I would say my advice to any entrepreneur starting or moving or already going on this is to recalibrate priorities, to ask yourself the question, well, what if I didn't get there? What if I didn't make it? What if I didn't sell the company? What if that didn't work out? How would I change things along the way? To enjoy the ride, to invest in joy on there, so that even if it doesn't work out, I can look back at that and say, wow, that was an amazing experience and didn't work out the way exactly I wanted to, but heck, I learned from this and I'm going to build on it and grow from there. And so I think that, the compounding thought of my entrepreneurial and life experience is that the best investment you'll ever make in your life is not your business. It's not the stock market. It's not in any company. It is in your own internal joy. And it is not something that takes any significant time or money even. It's just a recalibrating of your focus into the things that make you smile from the inside out. Because that return on joy is truly what emanates from the inside out, and it can never be stripped of you, no matter what. So, that is really what I would suggest for entrepreneurs, is to anchor into their joy, build businesses off of it. Or if they have a business that's not built off of their joy, make sure that they're investing in that joy along the way. And even this is the looping thought that I've had in my career. How do I find joy in the unenjoyable? If you can crack that code, right? And being like, oh man, this freaking sucks and I'm in it right now, but what's something that's joyful? Either a moment in the day, because they're always there, or even in what's going on, to be like, oh, that actually, I could see how that would be good experience for the future and I could build off of.
Yeah.
So those are some of my kind of parting thoughts for your listeners. And there is no destination. Life's a journey.
Life's a journey. Yeah. Look for the joy even in the unenjoyable stuff in life. I love that so much. Thank you so much. For people out there who still have questions to ask or want to work with you, maybe connect with you in one way or the other, what's the best way to do this?
Sure. They can find me on Instagram. It's Brent__Freeman. So Brent_Freeman. And that's going to be kind of the fastest way if they want to reach out, or they can email Brent.Freeman@Stealth Venture Labs. Brent.Freeman@Stealth Venture Labs. I respond. It might take me a little bit. I respond to everybody who emails. I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to.
We're going to place the link to your website in the show notes of this episode. So I encourage everyone out there to visit your personal website and the website for your company also, and check out what you do. And, you have speaking engagements, publications out there that people could also check out themselves. Thank you so much one more time, Brent. I really appreciate this wonderful conversation. I've learned so much from it myself.
Thanks, brother. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
If this conversation resonated with you, consider following or subscribing to Mirror Talk on your favorite podcast platform. You can also support the show by sharing this episode with someone who might need it and by leaving a 5-star rating. It helps these conversations reach more people who could benefit from them.
Thank you very much.